This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
And you're back in the Stone Zone. Joining me now, George Papadopoulos. He is a former foreign policy advisor to both Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson. From 2011 to 2015, he worked as a research associate with the Hudson Institute, as well as director of the London Center for International Law Practice. He is currently a contributor at Newsmax and a best-selling author of the book, Deep State Target, How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Take Down President Donald Trump. He was also one of the principal victims of the Russian collusion hoax and the Mueller Inquisition. George Papadopoulos, welcome into the Stone Zone.
It's great to be with you, Roger. Thanks for having me.
I think it's really timely, George, to have you on. I just saw you and your beautiful Italian wife, Simona, this past weekend at a great Lincoln Reagan-Trump dinner in Collier County, Florida. It was a great evening, and you gave a great speech. As you know, the FBI has released 700 pages of declassified documents related to Crossfire Hurricane. That's the counterintelligence effort that was focused on the alleged but non-existent ties between Russia and the Trump campaign back in 2016. Now, these documents were first declassified at the end of the first Trump term, but they never saw the light of day because the bureaucrats in the NSA essentially decided to wait Donald Trump out. They disobeyed a direct executive order of the president, but now we finally have them, and they're relatively shocking. We just found out that the FBI paid Stephen Halper, a associate of former President George H.W. Bush and a political consultant and academic. Well, they paid him $1.2 million as an informant. The only problem was the information he was providing all appears to be false. Your reaction?
Yes, it was great to see you, Roger. It was an incredible event in Collier County. Florida's doing wonderful things here with the Republican Party. And look, regarding this recent declassified, the release of the declassified information, but you're absolutely right. President Trump attempted to get this information out to the American public before the 2020 election. But of course, the bureaucrats and those who basically were subverting his administration and his policies and his movement from within prevented those files from coming out, while simultaneously, of course, you had 51 intelligence officers colluding with both big tech and the media to suppress the infamous Hunter laptop story that swayed the last election. So now that we finally have some light that is shined upon these files, it's actually a lot worse than I really thought. There aren't too many people that can now actually look at the facts with the declassified information and think that President Trump and his 2016 campaign and his first administration were guilty of anything except being victims of an overzealous Democrat prosecutorial base and a weaponized government that attempted to basically overthrow his administration with falsehoods and fake information. So the situation that you referenced with Stefan Halper is extremely damaging to both the FBI and the Obama administration, and actually the Uniparty, because this is a person that you rightfully just explained was an associate of Republican administrations. He was a professor at Cambridge University, but then he was moonlighting as an informant that attempted to ingratiate himself within the Trump campaign. Now, that is all good, potentially, if there was some criminal activity being conducted by people associated to the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, but that wasn't the case, Roger. What Halper was doing was he was being paid to basically throw dirt and lies on associates of President Trump and himself in order to allow the FBI to continue this fake investigation. It stinks to high heaven, Roger, and it's time for accountability.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary to me that Andrew Weissman, who was the de facto head of the Mueller Inquisition, because Mueller, as we now know, seemed to me to be around the bend, he knew all the way back to his time as the general counsel to the FBI that the so-called Steele dossier was a fraud. He knew who paid for it. He knew that it had been paid for by Hillary Clinton. And he knew it wasn't true, yet he still used it, combined with that false claim that the Russians had conducted an online hack of the Democrat National Committee. When my lawyers at my trial, made it clear that the FBI had never inspected the computer servers of the DNC, a federal prosecutor, Jonathan Kravis, who says his name Kravis, but his name is Kravis, filed a rare surreply, a filing with the court claiming that the government had additional evidence that the DNC had been hacked by the Russians, but they didn't have to produce it for my trial because of matters of national security. In other words, they had no proof whatsoever. In your particular case, George, Aaron Zelinsky, another one of the Mueller thugs, according to documents we have both seen, actually altered the FBI's transcript of its interview with you, called a 302, in which they asked you whether you would cooperate in their efforts to locate this mysterious Professor Mifsud, who seemed to be an operative in this whole operation. And you said, of course, you'd be happy to cooperate, but he changed the document to have you say that you didn't. Why has this guy not been prosecuted?
Yeah, Roger, this is a very disturbing pattern that we've seen over and over, and it really starts with even Kevin Kleinsmith, this FBI lawyer that was altering documents about Carter Page and others, where they were saying that Carter Page was not a CIA helper or CIA informant of some nature, but that he was working with the Russians. It goes to the same situation with you. They were lying, saying that you knew things about hacking, even though there was no evidence that there was ever any hacking. And with this infamous person, Mifsud, absolutely. When the FBI actually, when I told the FBI about him and said there was this shady guy, you should look into him, that was me overtly trying to cooperate and to let them know that this guy might be up to no good. I don't know what that whole situation was all about. And then what did Zelinsky do? While part of the Mueller team, he said, no, Papadopoulos was there to obstruct the investigation. Papadopoulos was there to potentially work with this person, even though we now know, based on numerous fact-finding missions by extremely adequate reporters, that Mifsud was likely part of an operation working with Western intelligence against me and potentially others on the Trump campaign. And Zelinsky and others on the Mueller team did what they know best, that is, lie about the truth, cover up the real story. And Roger, just to be quite frank here, I've always said that I thought that Mueller was there to cover up for the egregious misconduct of Comey. So I'm not really surprised that prosecutors like Zelinsky, who are tied into the Democrats and big law, did that. What I'm most surprised about is that this information took so long to come out, but we still have other information that we need to come out, Roger. You had people like Special Counsel John Durham say that the so-called predicate that launched Crossfire Hurricane, that launched Mueller, was not correct, that it was illegal, and that there was more to the story. We need that information to come out, Roger. We need those files declassified. We need to know what the CIA was up to, what John Brennan was really up to, what all of these stories about honeypots in 2015 were really all about. Because if we don't have the source and the knowledge about that, that went into the fake predicate of Crossfire Hurricane will never have the true story. So that is what I think the next step should be regarding declassification, and that includes John Brennan and others too.
Yeah, it was the same Mueller prosecutor, Aaron Zelinsky, who insisted that he and 3 other prosecutors had been pressured by Maine justice to, quote unquote, go easy on Roger Stone in sentencing. But only Zelinsky was stupid enough to say that under oath before the House Judiciary Committee, because a subsequent investigation by the Inspector General of the Justice Department proved that there was no pressure on these prosecutors. They wanted to give me 7 to 9 years for allegedly lying to Congress, but their sentencing memo said that I had cooperated in foreign interference in an American election, which of course I wasn't either charged with or guilty of. So Zelinsky perjured himself before Congress. Wait a minute, isn't that exactly what they charged me with, claimed that I did, even though no misstatement I made to Congress was material. No misstatement I said was willful. There was no Russian collusion. There was no WikiLeaks collaboration. And Robert Mueller knew that, said it in his final report, but then redacted it so I would never know. Judge Amy Berman Jackson, when my lawyers moved for the full Mueller report to be used in my defense, she denied it to us. She said that she would read the report and she would give my lawyers the sections that were relevant to me. Why did she leave out the section in which even Mueller could not sugarcoat that he found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or, for that matter, any other crime on my part? In other words, she withheld exculpatory evidence from my defense attorneys. Why she hasn't been impeached is yet another adequate and legitimate question. Additionally, George, when we come back, we got a little bit of time here, but when we come back, I do want you to go into your own experience about how they set you up to be used as a pawn in the entire Russian collusion hoax. Let me note that Christopher Steele, the former British intelligence agent who was the author of the so-called Steele dossier, was paid $75,000, but they offered him a $1 million bonus if he could prove that anything he had alleged about Trump was true. And he didn't collect the $1 million because all of it was a lie. It really is disconcerting. I have great confidence in Kash Patel, the FBI director. I have great confidence in Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. I know both of them very well. But like many, including our mutual friend General Flynn and others, we wonder, is anyone going to be held accountable here? The Durham investigation, in my opinion, was yet another hoax. First of all, he took 5 long years, just long enough for the statute of limitations to run out so that Hillary Clinton and Jake Sullivan and John Podesta and Jim Comey, the FBI director, and John Brennan, the CIA director, just long enough so that they could not be charged. Although I argue that there is no statute of limitations when it comes to treason and that this is treasonous activity. But Durham never inspected or addressed the question of whether the DNC had indeed been hacked by Russian intelligence. My attorneys sent him forensic evidence and made available to him expert witnesses such as former CIA counterintelligence expert Bill Binney, and he never addressed the question at all in his final report. In retrospect, George, I think that the Durham investigation was a holding action, was an effort to ratchet down the pressure on the Barr Justice Department to investigate and hold those accountable for the Russian collusion hoax for their actions. I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah, I think the entire situation with John Durham is that he let a lot of people down, including probably his own professional reputation, because during this infamous exchange that he had with Congressman Matt Gaetz during his testimony to the Judiciary Committee, the congressman told him flat out, "You're part of a cover-up. you're not telling the full story. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, and you let down yourself and the American people. And I think the only thing that John Durham accomplished, if you want to call it anything an accomplishment, was that he said that he refutes the official predicate of how the entire thing started and that there was a lot more agencies involved. There were other countries involved, and that the story goes way further back than July of 2016, when apparently Crossfire Hurricane launched. Now, that is all good. However, he didn't give the information of what he actually meant. He basically just left it as a cliffhanger that this happened, but I can't give you the details. Now, if you've investigated a situation like you said for 5 years, why were you presenting your case in front of the Judiciary Committee and not giving the facts? Is it because things were classified at that moment, because it was the Biden administration? Was there an actual cover-up? These are questions that we have to understand. Was Crossfire Hurricane basically providing top cover for Comey's off-the-books illegal activities that he initiated before Crossfire Hurricane? These are very important questions, Roger, that we don't have answers to, even with the rollout of these files that have come out, over 700 pages of Crossfire Hurricane. So if Special Counsel John Durham says that the FBI wasn't the only agency involved here and that Crossfire Hurricane isn't the beginning and the end, then we need to start asking these important questions to people like DNI Gabbard and also CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and have those files be presented to the Attorney General to see if there are prosecutorial cases that can be made off new evidence that John Durham alluded to. Because if we don't have the full picture here, Roger, if we don't have the facts about really what went into this fake story about hacking with that they tried to level against you, about these people like Joseph Mifsud that they were throwing at me, about covering up the situation with Christopher Steele and how that went into the FISA files, then we'll never have the truth. No one will be held accountable, and they'll continue to do this over and over and might try to sabotage Trump from within again this time. This can't happen again, Roger.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to George Papadopoulos, and we'll be right back.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
You need a vacation, so why not come play in LA? Fill your days with fun and let Los Angeles dazzle you with iconic landmarks, epic scenery, and stunning coastlines. And when the sun goes down, it's the perfect place to enjoy world-class dining and nightlife. Let play lead the way and soak up all this city has to offer. Start planning your LA getaway now at visitcalifornia.com.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
And you're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking to former Trump foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos. George, I want to shift gears here because politics is always about the future, never about the past, even though I think we and many of those in the MAGA movement want to know exactly what happened in the Russian collusion hoax, and those who should be held accountable should be prosecuted. How do you think President Trump is doing in this new term?
I think President Trump learned many lessons from his first term, and the most important is that personnel is policy. And by that, he's appointed patriotic Americans, constitutionalists, and people who are there to serve the American people and not to grift or undermine the America First movement. During his first term, of course, people say, oh, you had the Republicans controlling Congress. That was not the case. Actually, the Mueller situation and so many of these rhinos subverted the America First movement from within, prevented him from enacting many of his policy proposals and legislation. This time around, people like Howard Lutnick, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Bessent, everybody is on the same page and in tandem with the series of executive orders that the president has signed. You understand why now the border is finally secure, why the American economy is once again on the right path, and World War III has been prevented. These three issues were critical to this past election, and we just discussed, of course, the weaponization of government. That's the fourth element to why I think President Trump had this resounding victory, and he is enacting on all of these key pillars, and he's making the right moves with the right people at the right time to make sure that he is a successful president and his vision is implemented. And that's exactly what's going on. And I think we're all going to be a lot richer and a lot safer, and we're going to be functioning as a true republic with the rule of law during this administration and hopefully moving into the future now that President Trump has enacted the policies the way he has begun.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, ironically, I think he was still a great president in his first term, despite the fact that many of the people that he appointed thought their job was to delay or derail his agenda. Yet he gave us a boom economy, rebuilt our military strength, appointed scores of conservatives to the courts, sealed our southern border. He was a truly great president. I think, however, having sat out one term and returned, having gone through the crucible of the tsunami of lawfare and seen firsthand the viciousness and the dishonesty of the political establishment, he is a battle-hardened leader now. He is so much better prepared for this new term. And I predict, yet again, a golden age, an unprecedented age of peace, prosperity, security, justice, and law and order. I was with him Friday night for dinner, saw him the following morning at breakfast. He is calm, he is happy, he is serene, and above all, he is confident that he has the game plan to make America truly great again. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Stone Zone. Until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed.